really enjoyed the film, guys. It's quite funny. I was watching it earlier, and when you guys burst in those 2 packets of Cheetos, I was eating Cheetos at exactly the same time. There we go.
You had the right feeling.
Yeah,
it's all about the Cheetos.
Immersive cinema. But no, I mean, it's so easy to unfairly judge people who fall victim to manipulative people, you know, but then when you realize just how easy it can be for anyone, no matter, it's no reflection of anyone's intellect or anything like that, it's just something that anyone can kind of fall into. Is that something that you found quite striking when you were in the process of making this movie?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's something that certainly for myself I've thought about a lot, just because there are, you know, certain groups that you question whether they're cults or religion, or, you know, there's always these different things that can get you going. And I've met people who have come out of what they would call a cult, and very intelligent people. And I think sometimes it's just a moment of vulnerability that you fall into, and they catch you at that moment. And it seems like that's the answer. And so I think that was very much, at least for myself, I think we lost Lorenza for a second here, but you know, that for Jillian, this was definitely an answer to many of her questions and her feeling of, you know, being lost. And I guess our lives are a search for something. So I always find that an interesting narrative, is just how people get into said cults. Lorenza here, we keep going.
I was going to say, before I ask my next question, I mean, so you mentioned about doing some sort of research. Can you do much research into kind of victims of cults? So I guess it's something that can be a little bit kind of clouded in sort of ambiguity and stuff. But in this instance, I mean, I guess you can just kind of do research into anyone who's suffering from trauma or sort of abusive past relationships.
Sure. I mean, to be perfectly honest with you, there wasn't much research that we dove into. I think we dove more into, it's such an interesting concept, this movie, because it's that whole question of, you know, how do you escape the voices in your mind? And have they been, it seems as though they've been hypnotized by this cult leader. And so how do you run away from that? And how do we play that as actors? And how do we keep track of where we are on that journey of how far we're, you know, believing what's in our minds, and when we start questioning that. So I think that was more the trajectory rather than the research of, you know, being a victim of a cult and all that, which I, like I said, you know, definitely been curious about and have seen many documentaries about, just because it's, I think we're all intrigued by it and curious as to how that happens. But yeah, not much research in that sense for this role.
But how was the shooting experience? Because I mean, you were outdoors obviously for the most part, and so I imagine it was obviously pretty much just yourself and Lorenza for so many of the scenes. It was quite a unique experience to make, I imagine, this film.
You know what? It was wonderful. It was in the middle of COVID, and so, you know, I think that's why this was a perfect film to make, because we were outdoors, just 2 people, pretty much. You know, other than Chris Messina was in for a minute, but it was quite wonderful. It felt like coming back to life a little bit. And it was about an hour drive out to the desert here and outside of Los Angeles. And Lorenza's a wonderful human being. And Chris and Jennifer, our writer directors, were just fantastic to work with and collaborate with. So it was one of those unique, beautiful experiences. And I think everyone was grateful that we were back at work. And it was, you know, the days were real hot and the nights were real cold. So you'd be sweating and taking your layers off during the day. And then the evening you'd be asking for heaters and, you know, warm up tents and all that stuff. But that's just kind of part of it. And we had an absolute wonderful time making this crazy, dark film.
And I was going to ask as well, because I'm just to bring it back to Cheetos, because obviously I'm obsessed with Cheetos. But are you flaming hot or original?
Oh, flaming hot for sure.
Yeah, same. 100%. Your character was so kindly offered the choice, and I was like, God, I would have just taken the flaming hot and not.
I know, she was lovely about it. I would have taken the flaming hot too. It's much better.
So my final question is, because I've spoken, when you're playing characters who've got very complex, quite troubled relationships, like your character does obviously with Chris's in this instance. I've spoken to some actors actors who say when they have that kind of on-screen adversary, they can become really good friends on set, and they find no issue separating the actor from the character. But in some instances, other actors say that they like to keep a distance from that person to kind of enrich and inform that quite troubled kind of dynamic between the two. I just wondered what it was like with yourself and Chris in this, and if you did keep a kind of distance, or if you were just happy just to get along.
Definitely the former. Definitely, just we're super close. I love Chris Messina. We've worked together before. I think he's an outstanding actor. Felt so lucky to have him on this. We got caught up on everything in life in between. I'm definitely not method at all. And thankfully neither is Chris. So we were able to really hang out. And I actually feel like you can, for me, I just feel like you can explore and play a little more when you do feel comfortable with the actor that you're working with. The more you get to know them, the more you feel like you can be vulnerable, and same goes for your directors, and I think that's really important as an actor, to be able to trust fall into the people that you're working with. So yeah, we had a lot of fun. It's so, you always think that these dark sort of thriller films, I find more so than not that you need a bit of levity in between. So you end up sitting around and joking and shooting the shit, so to speak. And it was great.
Just what we're thinking, it must be so difficult if someone else is method and you don't want to be method. You're like,
right, exactly. It's never happened before. So, there's always time. But yeah, so far, knock on wood, it's been great.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much for your time. When Lorenza comes back, tell her I said goodbye.
I will. Thank you. Sorry about that.
No, it's all good. It can't be helped. Anyway, take care. Thanks so much.
Take care. Cheers. Bye.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're watching Hey You Guys.
Hey You Guys, huh?
Hey You Guys.
Is that from the Goonies?
It is indeed, yeah.
Nice.
Hey You Guys.